Hey, what's up? Welcome to the CEO Pulse podcast, where you get the real, the raw, and the mind of entrepreneurship. So today we have Scott Morse, and he's coming at us all the way out from Colombia. Man, it's I don't know, but we're in Arizona. Arizona does not have an ocean. I love the ocean. I love the vibe, the culture, and all that stuff. And I think Colombia is one of the coolest places in the world, man. So kudos for that. Scott, you own L.E.S. Media, and
Yes,
you've been abroad and providing services for around a year, and I find it super interesting because mostly the connotation that you can start up a business is that it's got to be hard, but you not only have done that. You've gone above and beyond, and then established yourself pretty much in different countries, right? So I want to tap into all that stuff.
awesome.
Welcome on, man. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, and I appreciate you having me on here. I'm looking out my window now, and I can see nice little mountain vistas with coffee plantations, coffee plants everywhere. So a little bit different than Arizona, a little bit greener, right? A little bit greener. Yeah. But the people here are amazing, man. And I'm about as gringo as they get. And I can just say, speaking on behalf as a guest in this country, I can just genuinely say the people here are beautiful. It's much more relaxed, much more tranquil. But the employees appreciate a really awesome job. And I've had very large firms in the States. The last company that I had in the stateside, they had 160 some employees at its zenith. And while there were a lot of really good individuals in there, I think some people kind of take for granted the opportunities that they have that maybe they don't do in other countries. And so I feel really blessed to have this company here and then a smaller company in Panama.
Gotcha. So you have right now, wow, you have two businesses rolling, and one in Colombia and another one in Panama. So tell me about L.E.S. Media and how that kind of evolved into what it is now. How did you get started? Did you just wake up one day and then said, "Hey, you know what? I want to start a business abroad," and then went to town on it, or was there a transition?
Yeah. No, there was, but I've been doing this for about 10 years, just not in the real estate vertical. So I'm a big proponent in high quality leads being sold and monetized in a position where I can do something called revenue share. So I like to think of myself as an elite lead generator, and I have a technology stack and platform that's very unique to my companies. But I also like rev share because it keeps me really, really interested in the whoever's buying my leads business model, right? And so I found out about something called wholesaling about a year ago. Literally never heard of it, knew nothing. A colleague, or now he's a colleague, but a friend of mine at the time said, "Hey, listen, I'm going to pay for a ticket for you to go hear this guy speak. It was $25,000. I'm going to pay half of it because if I can get you to put your call center on this product, I think we're going to do really, really well." And so I went and listened to this guy speak. And as soon as I understood the parts of virtual, I said, well, virtual is truly virtual. Like, we can do this anywhere. Like, I have agents here closing in Colombia that have never touched the United States, who are closing deals all throughout the United States. And so I just really like that particular business model because virtual is, can be done, should be done throughout the entire iBuyer/wholesaler industry. And that's why it was all started.
Awesome. So you transitioned into that space from somewhere else. What was the other one?
Selling leads to attorneys. So attorney referral next. Yep. And so it was very similar, a really good parallel because we were seeking out consumers who are in a distressed situation, who needed somebody to represent them and kind of remove the pain. And so that got really, really big there in the States. It ends up being, there's some regulatory headwinds when you are sending attorneys referrals. And so it's just one of those things that's like, okay, well, this is really great, but it also has some headaches. And as soon as I saw this virtual business model, I said, oh, this is easy. I'm literally going to insert that product into this ecosystem. And that's what's allowed us to scale it so massively and then get a buzz. And now people, want our services. And so we offer our services to other iBuyers, investors, wholesalers, back in the States.
Awesome. It's pretty interesting. And I've talked about this multiple times, like in the during the different interviews, but it's when you're open to opportunities, man, you have you kind of develop this eye to the possibility or to the whenever an opening gives itself to pivot from one industry to the other. You saw it getting a little tighter, so you went into a different, not necessarily drop the whole bucket, but you just decided to put different things into it, and that's super smart. That's super smart. So.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and I think one of the best things I liked about that particular space, or this real estate wholesaler space, is it's more mom and pop than it is Wall Street, right? Mm-hmm. And you have such a ultimately fragmented market where everybody's on different educational levels. It's really easy, candidly, to become the gorilla, the 800-pound gorilla in your market very easy, because most people are hobbyists in this particular venture. They're not actual real deal entrepreneurs. And it doesn't mean they can't go from a hobbyist to an entrepreneur, don't get me wrong. But once I saw how fragmented, how there wasn't, at least from our competition standpoint, a lot of massive Wall Street money that we were fighting, I said, oh, this is great. Just come in here, generate these amount of leads. We can do it from anywhere we want in the world. It's great. We've now built up our own personal real estate portfolio all over the nation. And if there's an NFL stadium there, that's where we want to be. Period. In the story, 32 NFL markets. That's kind of our mantra, and we're pretty close to all 32 markets now.
Wow, that's a simple model, a simple way to approach it, but it makes perfect sense. And you're right about it. I mean, just real estate investments in general is one of those things that people who wanna dabble in entrepreneurship kind of tap into first. It's low entry barrier type of deal. Yeah. But it doesn't mean that it's easy to do and easy to handle. One of the hardest things, honestly, is to generate the leads and have that consistent lead flow. And more than anything, I'm big on operating systems. It's my bread and butter, right? So I believe in having a solid foundation, linear systems that people can be plugged into and they can take home with them, make them their own. And it's hard to develop something like that. However, you've done it, bro, in a matter of a year and scaled in a whole bunch of different ways. You mentioned something kind of important. You said relaxed, the place where you're at, it's a chill place, relaxed and everything. But every the times that we've spoken, you don't give me the relaxed dude kind of vibe. You're going, it feels like you're going 24/7, your head's going 24/7 and just that kind high amped kind of personality, right? How has that played into what you're doing now?
So I appreciate that. So I believe high performance individual is not something you cut on. It's something that you've really trained yourself to be at all times, all hours. When my alarm goes off at 3:30 in the morning, it goes off at 3:30 in the morning because I have so much that I must get done before the rest of the world wakes up. And also I'm an old man. I might go to bed at 9 o'clock, 9:30. But I just know that to be an elite person and be able to lead a team and lead myself and keep my mind clear, it involves an excess amount, expansion of energy throughout the day. And so I am like this from the moment I brush my teeth till the moment I lay my head at bed at night. I'm very fast moving, and I have people in my life who help me try to enjoy the moment, not be worried so much about the future. But the office here needs a strong leader. And I think that's another thing is you have so many people who hire VAs and you have to have somebody who can grab everybody and just pull them and just move them forward. So I am like this 24/7 to the chagrin of some of the loves of my life, and it's just how it'll be.
Man, you said something really, really important, and I think it comes down to leadership. It's you're pretty much taking the notion of being whoever you have to be for the people around you. Is that kind of what I'm getting here?
Yeah, people are really good observers, right? Mm-hmm. And they can smell bullshit. Excuse my language.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And, no, you're good. And you can't have somebody talking about give me your all if they see that you're not giving your all in what you do. And I tell my staff when I hire them and say, hey, listen, I have extreme expectations of you, but I need you to have extreme expectations of me. Like, you're not going to catch me coming late to the office. You're not going to catch me hungover to the office. I'll drink, but you're not going to catch me doing these things. And I don't want to catch you doing those things. And it's this steel sharpens steel mentality, at least in my office, that we have a room full of elite performers. Our qualifiers are candidly, genuinely better than most of our affiliates closers. In other words, we're so highly trained, we're so in tune with what we're doing that I know that my fronters are better than, I say better, not better human beings at all, but they're just more in tune with the industry, the verbiage, the objections and rebuttals to be able to go toe to toe with almost any of my affiliates closers.
Wow, it's well, I mean, you're upholding that elite mentality, so it makes sense that people, you know, that want to be there, that are there, are going to adopt it, right? And then you know, go to town with it. So what does it
Cool.
take for you to put together a team like that? I mean, besides, of course, you leading by example, how do you kind of pick apart, you know, or qualify the people that are going to be qualifying for you?
So two things. Number one, I think you got to be a good salesman, particularly when you're starting out with nothing. Like my first crew, the first 8 or so people that we hired, they literally were hired and I showed them the room before a single cubicle was there. And I painted the picture of what they were leaving in their old job to come here. So I think you had to be a good salesman. When you're starting off in a new country, you really don't know too many people. You're starting off with an empty office. You got to be a good salesman. But second to that, when finding the people, I think that's much easier than a lot of people expect it to be, or even they maybe stumble on themselves. I have a philosophy: you hire good people first, then you give them the tools. I can make a good person a good fronter. I can make a good human being a good closer. What I won't allow is a scummy or lazy or bad person into the ranks, because it is cancerous. So you just give me a genuinely good person. I'm going to like them. I'm going to invest my time and energy in them. This is not a complicated deal. It's reading scripts, voice inflection, having a heart, having a good work ethic. But good people naturally have those components.
Yeah, I mean, it's going back to the old saying of, you know, hire for character and train for skills, right? It's always, especially if you uphold integrity, if you uphold values, and then you're creating the culture within your space. I mean, the last thing that you want is somebody who's really good at doing their stuff, closing and all that stuff, but being, you know, unethical, being, you know, taking advantage of people, and just, you know, like you said, being cancerous on the rest of the team. That's pretty awesome, dude. It's pretty awesome. So tell me, let's take it back a little bit. So, this whole thing, I mean, La Media started about a year ago, and I mean, it sounds like you're doing very well, and you've done, you know, you've taken leaps, not just, you know, steps towards growth. How do you get to the point where you're able to do this in a year, meaning your personal background?
Yeah. So my personal background is highly sales. I was 20 years old and I got introduced to an industry, the timeshare industry. And for all the negative things regarding the timeshare industry, which there are many, 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 many things about them, it is the most ruthless sales regiment and training. Like if you're successful in timeshare sales, I mean, it's one of the things when I hire stateside people, sales guys, I look to see if they've had timeshare experience, because I know that if they have, they're really amazing. Also, people who have done like Cutco knives, people who have done vacuum door to door. Like there's just certain industries that, at least from my perspective, solar door to door, that I know that, wow, if you survived in that environment, you've gotten some really great training. And so not only was it the training there, but mentors I've had along the way who really helped me understand that it's who you surround yourself with, it's who you follow. And my one tidbit I would tell people is, if you don't have a lot of strong mentors around you, if you don't have, they're in books. Like some of my most successful friends were in books. And what I mean by that is like Zig Ziglar. Like I was obsessed with Zig Ziglar for many, many, many years. Obviously Tony Robbins, I've done the Walk on the Fire. You know, those types of things. It's like, okay, well, yeah, I don't actually know anybody that's that high up. So let me go find this person in a book. Let me go find this person in a video. And that's kind of helped shape my vision for the past 2 decades.
It's pretty interesting that you put it that way, man, because a lot of, I mean, what I find is people get stalled on the idea that, oh, you know what, I have nobody to go to. And this is something silly, I'll call it stupid, that I did for years. I mean, I felt like I had nobody to turn to when I was looking for advice and starting my first business, and did all kinds of mistakes. And I mean, it was heavy, it was ugly, it was expensive. I never turned to books. I never turned to books when it would have made life so much easier. I mean, basically all you got to do is, I don't know, Google something on KPIs, and then you're going to have some badass, you know, 200-page instruction manual on how to figure those out, instead of, you know, going months without it and then not tracking your business, losing money left and right. But I think it's widely overlooked. And simply, like, for example, in my case, what happened was I was just not aware. I was not aware that there was, information was so, readily accessible and so easy to get to. And there's a different thing, man. It's a different thing about books. You can Google anything, right? You can Google anything and get an answer. But I don't know, there's just something about going to a specific book on whatever subject you want to tap into. And it's going to enlighten you a lot more if you get it from it's more personal than just general over the counter knowledge. So yeah, I mean, it's one of the biggest things. Once I made the shift and I became an avid reader, as you can,
I love it.
It's everything around me changed. The people around me changed. I mean, it's insane.
It's a life changer. So I'm a big proponent here on books. We have obviously a deal wheel and people spending their cash, but I literally I've at least 8 books out this week, and it's Thursday, but there were small little Zig Ziglar quote books, and I have a Grant Cardone, Sell or Be Sold on the floor. I have a Tony Robbins. I get these young men and women to read and to highlight, and there's nothing sexier. I'm telling you, I've never had a sales floor like this. There's nothing sexier. While between calls, you have a room full of otherwise like killers, like brawny men and like women. But literally, while it's waiting for the next call, they're literally highlighting in a beautiful sales book, and it's so sexy to have a room like, okay, you guys know that this is a life-changing opportunity here, because candidly, this type of company doesn't really exist down here. So it is a life-changing opportunity, or has the potential, let me just say, for a life. And some seize it, some let it go by. But two small things I tell all of my employees here to do with their books is, number one, always use a pink highlighter instead of a yellow one. A yellow one will fade over time. And what I want them to do when I give them a book is write on the front page, inside it up, exactly where their life is the day that I gave them that book. Because I know that they will go back to it 5, 7, 8, 10 years from now, and they'll flip through that book and they'll have highlights of where they left off, right? They probably won't finish the whole book. Some will, some won't. But it's just such a great place to snapshot their life, because if you go to my library at home, very similar size to yours, you can flip through it. And when I pass away, my kids are going to see all my struggles and pains from the first page of each one of these books. And I've now shared that messaging with these kids. And I know that their kids one day, hopefully, will pick up one of these really awesome books and be like, oh, look what Dad was doing in 2020,
Yeah, man. And you bring something really important. I think the value or there's this connection that I create with my books, right? Once I start highlighting shit in them, and it's like, I'll pick up a book that I got years ago, and I'll go through the highlights of it, and I'm like, man, I remember this, or wow, this is now such a simple concept, but I highlighted the thing for a reason, right? So at that point, it was one of those golden nuggets, and now it's just something that's incorporated into my life. But you're right, it totally creates a snapshot. So it's just there's a whole different world that gets tapped into once you look for mentors in books. I mean, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to, if you can't afford, high level coaching, it doesn't mean that you can't learn. And it doesn't mean that you have to stick with the cookie cutter type of stuff that you find on Google. I mean, you can tap into, and what's going to happen with that, psychologically, a couple things happen, right? So you start getting, this is one thing that I love doing with books. I love to get contrarian thinking. So for example, I'll get the extreme on a pro about any given topic, right? And then I'll get the opposite extreme on it. For example, the last one was on simplicity and kind of like finding the middle ground, right, on simplicity. Sure. And I went to I read a book that was very, very organized and super complex in systems and all that stuff, and then one that was super, super simple, like extra simple approach to life. And what happens is that now you planted 2 seeds in your head, and you have 2 different perspectives. So you're borrowing perspectives from all these people. You're borrowing ideas. You're borrowing ways of looking at stuff. And then what happens is that you start stimulating your thought process, and then you come up with your own synthesized version of whatever you think is right for you, whatever works for you. So it's not about taking everything that you find in a book too hard and then doing that one thing over and over again. It's about adopting it and then having that critical sense to come up with your own shit. So, I'm a big fan of quotes. Like I would genuinely say I'm obsessed with quotes. I love them. Nice. When I stand in front of these nice young men and women who haven't heard a lot of the
quotes that we hear in the United States, whether it be business related, whatever. But sometimes you can read a book and just get X amount of hot lines, right? You know, and it's just like those quotes will go with you forever. It's just, to me, I think that, like you said, it can be synthesized. It's a seed that gets planted. Who knows when it gets watered, if it ever gets watered, but you have it there in your arsenal when the time is right. Preparation and opportunity, that little quote, that little thing that you learn comes up and smacks opportunity right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're life changers, man. If you hear something at the right time, it will stick with you. One thing, like one that I can think of right now, just off the top of my head, that really kind of shaped my whole approach on life, and it's not an exaggeration by any means. It's Paulo Coelho's quote, and it's I refuse to go to walk carefully through life, only to arrive safely at my death. And that just made such an impact on me. It's like, wow, why the hell am I so worried about things? I mean, why am I so, understandably, I mean, you have to use, calculated risk and all that stuff, but I mean, a lot of times it's just fear stopping us from being, pulling the greatness from within, and then not showing the world, but putting it out there as inspiration. For example, your story, I mean, I think it's pretty badass, man. You're doing something that's amazing. You're making an impact. You're seeing the impact, not only with the monetary effects of it, but you're also tapping into the mindset, into the psychology of these people. How far do you think those ripple effects are going to get? You know what I mean? I mean, it's,
I think we're blessed enough to probably never know.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? I have young men and women here that I know that if I shut it all down tomorrow, their lives, there's assets that they take. And I am such a proponent in entrepreneurism that I know, and I have closers here, I have agents here that I have told to their face as soon as I realize that, yes, they got it and they're going to pursue it, I won't be able to keep you forever. Like, I'm not. I'm going to train you up like a rock star, and you're going to flee. You're going to fly away. And that's okay. I wouldn't, any employee that's ever left me in 10 years of having employees who left me for a better reason, whatever, I'm super stoked for them. It means I did my job, right? Like, hey, you want to go do wholesaling on your own from Colombia? I get it. I know how much $15,000 means here. I know how much $100,000 means here. And even in Alabama or Michigan, or it doesn't matter, right? It's just, that's a lot of money. Yeah. You don't have to do 450 deals in a year, right? But a couple of months. And so I know that the ripple effect, at least I hope in my heart, the ripple effect, I almost never want to know. It's like those old teachers that you pass, 20 years later, you say, you know what? You were the best English teacher. You did that one thing and I blah, blah, blah. Like, that's it. I don't want to pat on the back. I know I'm giving them awesome tools and I hope they use it responsibly.
You call them tools, man, but I think more than anything, it's you're giving out your essence, or not giving out your essence, poor choice of words, but you're putting out your essence, and people are just getting fueled by it. I think the greatest thing for us to do as leaders is to be ourselves, put ourselves out there, and then have people tap into that energy, people tap into that, those ethics and that way of doing business, that way of doing life, and develop themselves from it. I do something very similar, and actually I do it during the hiring. If at any point in time you feel this is a holdback or a setback for you and you've outgrown it, I mean, let's have a conversation about it. It's you're not anchored in. Don't feel like you're the last thing I want to do is hold anybody back. And if they've gotten better, because of something that we put on the table, hell, I mean, that just makes me feel happier to see somebody thrive. And I've had it happen multiple times where people move on and then they do great things. And it's like, wow. It's just, pretty badass to be a part of that segment. I mean, we're all tools, right? In everybody else's life. It's at the end of the day, it's we're going to make an impact, either positive or negative.
Yeah. I think, just following through with that, it's also confidence in what you do, right? Because there's a, I don't say limiting belief system, or you don't, right? And so, like, I know that there's business owners out there, like, I don't want to teach them how to do dispo because then they're going to, well, either you're the bomb and people want to work with you, or they want to steal from you and try to, you know what I mean? Like, the reason why I do rev share with so many affiliates out there is because it's like, now listen, I want to partner with you. Like, this is fucking great. The synergy is amazing. Let's rock and roll. Same thing with employees. It's like, I provide an awesome work environment, the best work environment in this state. For sure. I know of that, right? but it's just so people naturally want to stay here, and if they want to go, let them go. It's great, but there's also high accountability. So I'm slow to hire and quick to fire. Slow to hire, quick to fire, for sure. As soon as I catch some incongruencies that can't seem to be calibrated, let's go.
Yep. And that's the way to do it, man. It's at the end of the day, what you want is, or the last thing you want is, it's a cancerous, person inside a great culture. So that's great, man. I mean, your mindset is pretty balanced, I think, in production, and then in the sense of holding other people to their space and providing for them. I mean, it sounds like a great thing that you have going on. Great company that you're developing, you're building. So you mentioned rev share a couple of times. Tap into that elaborate on that. What exactly is that for those?
Sure. So what it means for, let's just say people aren't familiar with the verbiage, but rev share means revenue share. And so what I tell people is that I'm not here for hourly arbitrage. In other words, okay, I pay X amount of hours for my employees here, and you pay me X amount of hours, and I make an hourly arbitrage. I mean, that's a business model, don't get me wrong, but with the platform, the ecosystem, humbly myself leading at the top of the ship and scaling businesses and doing them, I love when I develop relationships with people where I'm compensated as such, like, hey, listen, we're using your services, and we've worked out a deal where X percentage of their deals that come from only my marketing channel. Obviously, that's if I didn't generate it, I don't want it, or it's not mine, I should say. But so I get a percentage of the revenue that comes from my marketing sources. And what it does is it takes me from being an enterprise call center, which I can be. I'm an enterprise call center for hire, to a strategic partner. And having somebody who has the background experience, the platforms, all the additional oomph that you get when you have a strategic partner, it's well worth it. And that's the reason why I'm helping scaling those people's business even faster than just the normal call center services.
Nice. That makes a lot of sense. Makes perfect sense, actually. So tapping into a little bit more of the logistics of what it takes to take something abroad. I mean, because you were based in the U.S., right, for the longest time?
Yeah, Florida.
Okay, based in Florida. I'm actually gonna be in Florida on Monday.
Nice.
But it's you were based in the States for the longest time. Now you decided to take this abroad or offshore. First off, the first question that comes to mind is why, right?
Well, I can tell you why, and it actually ties back into the revenue share, because nobody will love your business as much as you love your business, right? Like it's just not going to happen. No one's going to love your business as much as you do. And so what happened? What happened is we hired somebody in Colombia to serve as our outsourced call center. And we went through all the pains people do for VAs. We flew in, we tried to train them. We didn't. I said, let's just make it our baby. And that's what started that journey.
So you tapped into the employee base in Colombia first, and then it worked out, but it wasn't, I mean, as far as the running of it was getting a little difficult. So you decided to just do it in-house in Colombia, or?
There was another gentleman in a different part of the country who had his own office, his own thing. He sells services to the States, and the quality, what's sad about this industry is you can actually have subpar quality and still get results. And people think that is the norm.
Oh yeah.
But it's hard to scale. Like our goals are bigger than most people's annuals. Our monthly goals are bigger than most people's annual goals. And that's just not scalable. Inconsistency is never scalable. And so we just decided to choose a different part of the country. And then that's where we launched this office. And I interviewed some HR reps immediately out of the gate who are bilingual. And I found almost half of my staff are not ex-US citizens, excuse me. They were born and raised there. And for whatever reason, I've had to come back. So everybody speaks super fluent English here. You couldn't tell that you're in Colombia when you walk into my office.
Well, given the background, it doesn't feel like Colombia. So, well, I mean, I like the brand. I like the everything that you're carrying along with it.
Thank you.
So, like, what were some of the challenges? I mean, that was kind of like the trigger, right? The catalyst for the move and making it all happen. I'm sure there was a lot of stuff that you had to figure out before heading over to Colombia and kind of setting all your ducks in a row. But Well, I guess if you were to mention like the top three, and you don't have to get specific
Sure.
about it, but if you were to mention like the top three challenges of doing business offshore for somebody that's based off of the States originally, what would those be?
So one is the culture, right?
Hmm.
It's the period in the story. And I'm, like I said, I'm like this all the time, but there's not too many people in this area that are like this all the time.
Oh
And
yeah.
so sometimes my tenacity or drive, it takes a while for people to understand, like, oh, he's not really mad. He's just screaming because he's excited or he's this or whatever it may be. He's throwing a chair, but he's throwing a chair like playfully, like, come on, guys, what the, you know?
Yeah.
Those types of cultural things where it's like, oh, all right. So like I played football in high school. You smack a dude on the ass, like, come on, boy. Uh, really get some odd looks when you do that down here.
Yeah, it's a Latin America, bro. Yeah.
Yeah. But other than that, honestly, man, the number one thing I did is it just got out of my way. I didn't come here to be greedy. I found out what every other call center is paying. I found out the insane, atrocious hours that they're working. I was like, we ain't working 55 hours a week and you're not getting paid that. You're going to have your weekends off and we're going to pay you commissions. And that's it. I didn't need to come here to be, the guy with just a barely, no, I want to offer a cool work environment. They're great to me. I want to be great to them. Let's just rock and roll. It wasn't as complex as people would think it is because I didn't try to cut corners anywhere on the setup.
That's amazing, bro. I'm gonna set you up for the next question with this one. I guess it's what are your top three? I mean, I keep saying top three, but if you have
Sure.
one or two, it's primary principles, like the guiding beacons of your business. Because
Well, I
I
can tell you
think
of
I'm
the business.
catching based off of what you're saying. I mean, I think I can pick a few of them, but
So I can tell you what our guiding principle of the business is, and it's in our taglines and a lot of stuff,
mhm,
but it's highly qualified and highly motivated.
mhm.
And that's how we look at our leads. Like we don't send the leads over unless they're highly qualified and highly motivated. But that's how we look at our employees. We don't hire them unless they're highly qualified and highly motivated. And so the whole aura of this office, no matter what you do, highly qualified, highly motivated. If you're missing one of those components, we're not there yet. So highly qualified, highly motivated for sure. And I like them to be hungrier than my US guy. Would I say this bluntly? And I learned this recently. I used to say, all right, we like them hungry. We like our agents hungry. The difference between hungry and starving, though, like it's a different mentality. And
Oh
so I'm
yeah,
trying to
for
just
sure.
amass those people who are just like, let's get it. Let's get it. And that's what we do.
Yeah. So highly well, that's looking from the outside in, right? But now how do you approach your culture with your team? I mean, it sounds like one of the base foundations is fairness throughout, throughout the staff.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is what I'm trying to get to is that people often think, like, for example, my first thought was when I first started hiring VAs and doing all this stuff, for my business, it's cheaper. It's cheaper labor, and then I want to pay them, as little as possible. And then it's pretty much it's a one-way street, bro. I mean, the way it
Yeah.
works, especially in that type of model, it's a one-way street. And I've seen that one-way street happen not only with clients, somebody starting up, it's I don't want to say justifiable, but it's got more of a leniency because you're
Sure.
limited on funds and whatnot, right?
Yep.
But when it comes down to the employer base, I've seen the same thing happen. So you have people working 40 hours, 50 hours, 60 hours a week, and then getting paid, I don't know, 20% of what they would make in the States. And I get it. It's not, it's the economy of that space,
Sure.
but it's not the fairness element is not in there, man. I mean, like if you have the opportunity to create a good space for people, create somewhere where they can a platform more than a weekly check, for them to grow and develop. It's not being done. You know what I mean? And that's
Yeah.
kind of what I'm catching from what you're saying. And I think that's going to go a long way also, like in the effort that people do for, the people will put in for
Yeah.
you, as well as the type of company they're going to run. I mean, if you step away for a couple of days, are you afraid that they're going to screw you over and not do their job? Question.
No, I leave on Saturday for Panama. I spend about a week, a month in Panama with that small team there. That's the technology team. No, I mean, listen, do I love it? Do I know that they perform better when I'm in the building? For sure. In this story, because I think that the energy that I bring on that floor it's something that it's reciprocated, right? Like I get it. I know that, but I'm never disappointed in the results on the days that I'm not there. Just period.
Mm-hmm. See, and that's the thing. I mean, you're not, when you take care of your people are going to take care of you. Simple as that, right? Awesome. Yeah. So what about the, like your own personal mindset when you come across challenges and, I mean, do you have something, it sounds like you have a good support structure. You have people that kind of bring you back, and you were doing this when you were explaining it. So you have somewhat of a counterbalance, system in place.
Not as good as I should, and I know it. Not as good as I should. I can say this, and I say it openly and honestly. I have an addictive personality, not necessarily with drugs, or whatever, but I'm a very addictive person. So when I do something, I do it to the extreme. There's an old Scarface quote, like nothing exceeds like excess. Like that used to really, and so I've had to tame that beast a little bit, and the only way you can tame it, right? Like a person is who they are, is just the discipline, right? And so my thing is, my vice is discipline. That's my drug. My vice is discipline. Period. End of story. And if I didn't have that, I'd be a hot mess. And I wouldn't have all these companies. I wouldn't have any of this stuff if discipline wasn't my vice.
It's huge, man. That's huge. No, man, thank you for that. I mean, you're definitely dropping a lot of nuggets here, and it's pretty interesting, man. It's awesome to see something like this being developed and creating opportunities outside of home. So kudos for that, especially me being Mexican. I mean, I know how difficult things can get in Latin American countries, and this is, I mean, it's a light what you're creating, what you're putting together. It's a light for the people that are getting impacted by it. So a big kudos on that. So if somebody were trying to get actually, let me step. This is my favorite question. If you were walking down the street and you ran into your 17-year-old self, what would you tell that kid?
That's a really good question. I appreciate it. There's a lot of things that I'd say to him. I would have traveled quicker, further, faster. Like I think I grew up in Virginia, and I never saw a jet ski. I own two. I own a boat. But I never even saw a jet ski till I was 21. I never saw a palm tree till I was 21. I'd never been more south than South Carolina. I'd never flown a plane. I just didn't know the other world that was out there. And so every time I've moved, I've 10x'd my life. Period. End of story. Without fail. And so going to a new environment and being forced to kind of grow and expand. Same thing here in Colombia. Like once I moved here, I was like, oh my god! Now international tax laws, tax benefits. Just all this stuff. The moving my body helped grow me infinitely, and I look forward to like Portugal. I got really started eyeing Portugal now. So there's those types of things I would tell myself, which is move faster to your next place. Don't be afraid.
Wow, man. Wow, it's deep, and it's pretty interesting too how just getting yourself physically out of that space will get you mentally out of that space. Yeah, I can relate. Coming from a small town
and the people. I love all my high school friends. I love them to death. I can't wait to see them for Thanksgiving. I can't wait to see them for Christmas. But I can genuinely say that I would be a plumber. I mean, I don't have any college education. I don't. I decided to self-educate myself emphatically. But I don't. And I say a plumber. I don't know. But I was destined to be a handyman. Some type of guy that worked with his hands, and I love the professions, and I'm not slighting it, but my hands are too soft for that.
Now they are.
Yeah, exactly.
I bet they weren't like that when you were playing football.
No. So.
Cool. Good deal, bro. Awesome, man. So if somebody wants to get a hold of you for services or just, touch base and kind of tap into your brain a little more. And thank you so much for everything that you're dropping on us today. It's really, really cool to have this broadened perspective that you have just showcased here. So where can somebody get a hold of you?
Yeah, so they can reach me on my personal Instagram handle is @virtual cash offer. And because virtual cash offer, that's what we do, right? At least that's the business that I'm primarily focused on now. And then all the Lamasu leads behind me. I do want to say one other thing though about the real estate or wholesaling, if I may, real quick, and then pivot on. And that is what's made us so unique is we're trying to get these entrepreneurs to stop taking out the trash. What I mean is there's so many people in this vertical, this particular wholesaling, iBuying, that they are closers who can't focus on generating revenue. They are actually glorified VAs. I can't tell you how many successful wholesalers are literally glorified VAs. They've hired somebody over here. They've gotten low quality leads in, and they're hunting those back over and over and over. And they never get to actually truly walk into their office and focus on nothing but closing deals, closing leads, talking to people who want to talk to them. And that was one of the biggest things. As soon as I stepped in this industry, I said, oh shit, excuse my language again. But I said, oh man, everybody here they're not focusing on generating revenue. They're focusing on generating leads. And that happens to be my expertise. I said, boom, I'll handle the entire front end of your operation. Let me handle everything up until, hey, they're ready to speak with you now, live transfer, boom. And I think that's what's caused such a buzz is because people are like, oh God, I don't have to worry about managing playlists, training agents, data life cycles, training. It's all that's kind of done by us. And that's been our success quotient.
Turn and burn kind of deal. So, turnkey. So turnkey, yeah, man.
There you go.
Yeah, no, I love it, man. And you're totally right. I mean, one thing that I see with a lot of my my students is and specifically in real estate, right? It's they want to wear all the hats for more or for longer than they really have to. They start the business wearing every single hat in the joint. And then close a couple of deals, close a couple more, and they're getting successful. But then what happens is that people get overwhelmed with wearing every single responsibility on it. And then they're the lead manager, they're the cold caller, they're the closer, they're the dispo guy. And then what happens is that you start creating this big ass bottleneck on yourself, on your company and growth. And I think one of the things that I see a lot too is, and I just hired an acquisitions rep this morning, and I was talking to him about, understanding the lanes. Like everybody has their own duty. So for example, you want to keep your closers closing. That's what they do. You train that person to do that specific job, right? You train your lead manager to do that specific job. So keep them in that lane. And it's such a tough concept to kind of get through once, when you start off wearing every single hat, like, no, but why? Like he's got 15 minutes. He can be doing something else. Yeah. Read a book, get him to fine tune their craft. And then you can always ramp it up somewhere else or delegate to somebody, that's highly skilled, like for example, your company. So I love it, man. Yeah.
Cool. This is great, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate being able to come and answer all your questions and learn a little bit more about you as well, Rafael.
Thank you. Same here, bro. You're an avid reader. What are your top 3 books? And we'll close off with that.
So it's funny you said Paulo Coelho. I think that's one that you got to. I give that away as well too. Yes. The Alchemist. I mean, it's just such a beautiful. I read. Maybe once a year or so I'll read it. I grew up in the era of Zig Ziglar. He was the one that put me really on, because I felt like he had all the sales acumen mixed with a good heart. And I needed that in my life, from what I saw out there. I wanted to be able to be a really highly technical sales guy. So see you at the top. That's always a good one. And Becoming a Millionaire, it's a book. I slip it, but it is Becoming a Millionaire. I know it's so generic. It's going to pull up a bunch of other ones. If anybody reaches out to me, I'll give them the exact one. But it's got all of your goals that you have to write out while you're doing it, and it's one of those books that I every single year reread and then redo my goals. And so when you see mine, it looks so silly because you got 4 or 5 of the exact same books, but each one of those represent a year, and it's very humbling, and it's also very rewarding when I go back and read those. Humbling on the goals that I missed, rewarding on the ones that I knocked out of the park.
Wow.
And so that's what I do. I would say one other thing in regards to the goals. I believe in Sharpie markers. I have the best chalk ones. There's not a mirror in my house. There's not a window in my house that's part of my daily routine that doesn't have the goals, that doesn't have power quotes written on it. I just believe that anybody who's trying to start their own business, they got to keep their vision in front of them at all times. You're brushing your teeth, you need to see what your daily goals are. You're brushing your teeth and are you putting your shirts on and you're looking in your bedroom mirror, it needs to have what you're supposed to do for the day. And so above and beyond anything, put your goals in front of your eyes. Just you need to see them. They can't just be in the back of your memory or in that old book that I was just saying. No, it's got to be in the book. It's got to be on your mirrors. It's got to be right here on your card on your desk. It's got to be right here in your cards on your desk. Like those are my personal and business goals for this month.
Beautiful, man. I love it. I have mine pop up on my desktop every time I open it. I screen it up and then it's like right in my face. I can't get around it even if I wanted to.
Good, man. Well, good luck. I love it.
All right, brother. Well, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. That was Scott Morse for you guys. And once again, man, thanks for coming over.
All right. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Boom. It's a wrap.